You already know the argument. You might even already know the answer. But the question is training to failure really worth it? Now, before we get into the topic of today's video, if my glasses look wonky at any point, it's because they probably are. This is why. Feel free to donate in the first link in the description. Now look, there's always new studies coming out around training, but one thing I'm sure we can all agree on is that experience goes unmatched and is usually more effective and more reliable than these studies are a lot of the time. As someone that's been training for 12 years, competing for 7 years and coaching for 7 years, I can say for a fact that experience a lot of the time does trump these studies. Hopefully you agree. Some of them will say leaving reps in reserve is better, and some coaches will tell you the same as well. But the thing with leaving reps in reserve, to do it properly and to do it effectively, you have to actually understand what training to failure looks like and what training to failure feels like. Now, unfortunately, most people doing reps in reserve don't know what training to failure feels like or what it looks like because they've never done it. So knowing that, how can you train with reps in reserve if you don't know what training to failure is like? Like, how do you know if you're leaving the right amount of reps in reserve if you've never gotten to the point of 0 reps in reserve, you know? I also think it's important to look at the actual source of information as well. Like, literally look at the person. Do they look like they've built significant tissue? Do they have a desirable physique? And have they achieved what you're looking to achieve? If there's some skinny streak of piss looking bloke that's telling you that leaving 2 reps in reserve is more effective for muscle growth than going to complete and utter failure, yet his arms look like a bloody rice noodle, maybe he's not worth listening to. Just a thought. And then here's me sat in my oversized t-shirt looking like I don't lift, so feel free to click off if you want. But in reality, people like that have read a study or two and think there's some wealth of knowledge. In my opinion, actions speak louder than words. I trust people based off their results and their experience, not just because they say they claim to be something or they've got it in their Instagram bio. Just being real, reading a few studies does not equal knowledge necessarily. It just means you've read something and remembered it. That's totally different to knowledge and experience and results. Anyway, for those that are new here, hello, my name is Reese Kiffin. I'm a pro natural men's physique competitor. I've competed in about 15 shows, won about half of them, won 2 overalls, won 2 pro cards, and last year became natural British champion in men's physique. So that was pretty cool, and apparently it's worth sharing in these videos sometimes. Hopefully now you believe that I'm not that skinny streak of piss looking guy with rice noodle arms. I've also coached tens of athletes to the stage that have looked incredible and have placed really well in shows, and I've literally coached hundreds and hundreds of people who have achieved life-changing results. I just thought I'd share that because apparently that proves that I know what I'm talking about. Now, I think it's quite obvious after that intro that I am a huge fan of training to failure. However, I am also a big fan of training with reps in reserve as well. One person you can never trust is the person that talks in absolutes. You can never say that training to failure as a whole across the board is indefinitely better than reps in reserve, vice versa. There's always nuance and there's always little things that we can be looking out for because everyone's different, everyone's going to react differently. But here's my take and here's my argument. If your main goal is to achieve maximal muscle growth, you want to get insanely massive and big and huge naturally and get as big as you can. If that's what you want, then yes, you do have to be training to complete and utter failure. Because when you train to complete and utter failure, you're sending a signal to your body. You're forcing and demanding something from it, and there's no other option. When you train to failure, you're raising the bar for what that muscle is able to achieve. This causes more damage, which then requires an adaptation from your body so it doesn't experience that same pain or damage again, which means increased strength, increased muscle size, and increased durability. It's like when you get a cut on your arm and it scabs over, turns into a scar, then slowly forms back into skin. That's your body reacting and adapting to a stress that it's been put through. And it's the same with lifting or building muscle. You create a level of stress and the body has to adapt to it. Now, the argument with reps in reserve is that you can still build a great physique and you can get very comparable results by not training as intensively or as hard. And if you do complete those last few reps and achieve true muscular failure, all you're achieving is diminishing returns. But an important thing to note is that diminishing returns are still returns. So I'm going to try and lay this out in a way that I think makes sense. Let's just say you're doing a set and you've gotten to the point where you're 4 reps away from achieving complete and utter failure. And getting to 4 reps in reserve, you've got 4 reps left, that achieves you 1 gain. Okay, being 4 reps in reserve, if you just stopped there, you achieved 1 gain. If you did an extra rep and got to 3 reps in reserve, that would achieve you, let's say, an extra 0.75 of a gain. If you did another rep on top of that and got to 2 reps in reserve, that would achieve you another, call it zero point 0.3 of a gain. If you did another rep and got to 1 rep in reserve, that would give you an extra 0.15 gain, right? And if you got to 0 reps in reserve, that would give you an extra 0.05 gain, okay? So if you kept 4 reps in reserve, you would still achieve gains. But as you get closer to failure, the amount of gains you're continuing to add are diminishing, but they're still more than if you just kept 4 reps in reserve. Make sense? So rather than stopping at 4 reps in reserve and achieving 1 gain, you left no reps in reserve and achieved 2 gains, or 2.5 gains. Just as a disclaimer, the unit of gains that I'm talking about is completely made up. It's not factual, it's not real, it's not evidence-based, I've just made it up. But it's just to give context of the fact that diminishing returns are still returns. So it's quite simple. If you do more reps, you achieve more total gains. But the gains from each individual rep just decrease as you get closer to failure. But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because as you get closer to failure, obviously the muscle gets more fatigued, more exhausted. You can't recruit the fibers in the actual target muscle as much anymore. So you start performing some cheat reps or some swinging reps. And then the surrounding muscles start to get involved and other muscles start to get engaged. So yeah, failure's been achieved and some, and you're demanding more muscle growth and more adaptation from your body. Job well done. But before we carry on and just go to failure on every single set, let's add a bit of nuance here. Put yourself in this position now. You've got 3 sets of preacher curls to do. Machine preacher curls for biceps. Are you going to failure on every single set now? Because after hearing what I've just said, you might say, well, yeah, obviously, diminishing returns are still returns. I'm going to get more gains, blah, blah, blah. But this is what I would actually do instead. Because let's just say you did go to failure across 3 sets on the preacher curl machine. It might look something like this. You might fail at 15 reps on the first set. The second set, you might get to 11 or 12. And then on the final set, the third set, you might only get 9 reps. So the total reps there are 35 across 3 sets. That's equivalent to 11.6 reps a set on average. Now, this is where we implement reps in reserve. Instead of going to failure across the board on every set, we're going to keep 1 to 2 reps in reserve on your first 2 sets. So on your first set, instead of getting 15 reps, you've now got 14 reps. Because you left a little bit of energy in the tank, a bit of energy spare, on your second set, you actually got 13 reps instead of 11 reps. So you didn't quite match the first set, but you actually got more than what you did in the other example. Now, the final set comes around. You're not keeping any more reps in reserve. You've rested up, you're ready to go, and on that final set, you actually managed to match your second set. So on your first set, you got 14 reps, your second set, you got 13 reps, and your third set, you also got 13 reps. That gives you a total of 40 reps across 3 sets, rather than 35 reps across 3 sets, because you kept reps in reserve on the first 2 sets. And then that's equal to an average of 13.3 reps per set instead of 11.6 reps per set. So you've got an extra 1.5 reps per set by keeping reps in reserve. So this is why reps in reserve is actually good, and I'm a fan of it, because if you're actually strategic with how you approach your sets, you can achieve more total work or more total reps achieved by keeping some reps in reserve. So actually being smart with your training rather than just going hard all the time is going to be more beneficial for your physique development and muscle growth. This is why keeping reps in reserve can actually be a really good use of your time as a frequent gym goer and bodybuilder, as long as you're using it properly and you're not using it as an opportunity to just train like a hybrid athlete. And that's it really. This is my take, this is my approach, and this is the approach that I share with my clients and I get them to use as well, whether they're looking to compete in bodybuilding or if they're just looking to get into world-class shape. If you're looking to maximize your gains, get absolutely swole and jacked to win every single bodybuilding show that you do in the future, then yes, you do need to train to complete and utter failure. However, I would limit it mostly to your final set of every exercise. Okay, even on the final set of your first exercise, go to complete and utter failure. On the final set of your final exercise, go to complete and utter failure. On all of your final sets, just take it to that point, and you will more than likely see more gains. And then one more thing that I would consider to aid your process of training to complete and utter failure is every 4 to 6 weeks, incorporate some level of training intensifiers. This could be drop sets, this could be rest pause sets, cluster sets, whatever it may be. I think incorporating these every 4 to 6 weeks, most particularly on movements where you're noticing a bit of a strength plateau, that's really going to help your strength to increase and just obviously your body to soak up some more gains. So don't do this every week, but every 4 to 6 weeks, I think chucking in some intensifiers can also be a great way to just further intensify your training. Because yeah, they are just a wonderful way to make the workout a bit more hurtful, a bit more effective, and definitely more rewarding. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, please drop a like, please drop a comment and subscribe. If you haven't enjoyed, please drop a comment as well and let me know that you haven't enjoyed it. I'd appreciate the engagement. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get to 1 billion subscribers by the end of the year, so please subscribe. I want to be the first YouTuber that gets to 1 billion subscribers, so let's make it happen by the end of this year. Cheers.